when you think about 2020, when you think about uh, a pandemic, when you think about something like just multiplying and spreading, when you think about a, a billionaire with aspirations to be more than a billionaire, to maybe
Hmm.
be president one day, when you just think about the excess of our world and the greed and the media, what do you think about?
Well, obviously, I think about Gremlins 2, the new batch.
You are in my brain, you're in my head. 30 years ago, Gremlins 2, the new batch came out, and yet it's still speaking to us 3 decades later.
Prescient. It was prescient.
It was ahead of its time. It,
But
man, it is.
also, it was not only ahead of its time, but it was also has no time at all.
It's like this movie is in a different it's like in a different multiverse than ours. It's like or the universe of ours. It's like, hey, this is normal Earth, and Gremlins 2 obviously fell out of some kind of like universe traveling machine that came from a different Earth. And yeah, that's what this movie is to me.
Some weird wormhole opened up,
Yes.
pooped
And
out
Gremlins
Gremlins 2.
and it changed our lives. It changed, I'd like to think, everyone's life, but maybe just
Yeah.
mine.
I mean, for film nerds like us, it is definitely one of those movies that you're like, this movie is amazing. But I have shown it to other people, and they don't get it.
I never thought I'd be like misunderstood, but if there's one thing I am misunderstood about, it's Gremlins, my love of Gremlins too, and I'm okay with that.
Let me have you try to explain the plot
Okay,
of Gremlins 2, the new batch.
so Gremlins 2 picks up a good 6 years after the original Gremlins, like a kid horror classic, Christmas movie for sure. Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates, they work in New York now, and which you forget that's where Gizmo came from.
Hmm.
Gizmo somehow winds up in the same building they're working in, which is some kind of crazy television studio mall slash.
It reminds me if Amazon Prime was just like a building. That's what it would
Yes,
be.
that's what it is. Yeah, exactly. If Amazon was doing weird experiments on animals, which we don't know if they're not,
They could
so
be. They have a
could
lot
be.
of warehouses.
So yeah, Gizmo winds up in the same building. He water gets on him. He starts multiplying, and then the new batch of Mogwai, they eat after midnight. They break the rules, and then they become gremlins. But the stakes are raised when those gremlins get wet again, and then they have more gremlins, and then those gremlins take a bunch of like weird serums and become different gremlins. It is crazy. We're talking about a brain gremlin. We're talking about a lady gremlin. We're talking about a bad gremlin, a tomato gremlin, a Phantom of the Opera gremlin,
A
just
goofy-eyed gremlin.
a goofy eye gremlin. It is.
And
It is.
not only that, but the intro of the movie and the outro of the movie, it's bookended by two Looney Tune cartoons.
Yes. Yes.
And Chuck Jones came out of retirement to make cartoons for Gremlins 2.
Yeah. This movie really, if anything, besides maybe a commentary on just greed and like industry and conglomerates or whatever, is just a love letter to Warner Brothers. I think it's like Joe Dante said. The best part is that they just after trying to write this movie, like get a sequel off the ground, they finally just came back to Joe Dante and said, "We will let you do whatever you want." And Joe Dante's like, got it. And it is the craziest thing. I mean, Hulk Hogan's in this movie. There are cameos everywhere. There is like the bat. I mean, I think the one we all think about is when the bat becomes the bat, flies outside and leaves a Batman symbol
Perfect.
in the wall.
Perfect. But it's a commentary and critique on sequels but it's also a meta commentary on filmmaking, because not only does it have breaks the fourth wall and puts you into either one you saw either in theaters or the VHS version.
Yes.
You either saw Hulk Hogan or you saw a bad John Wayne accent. It has cameos. It has homages to all kinds of 50s movies. It has Dick Miller's in it, one of the greatest actors of all time.
And shout out to Dick Miller one time. I love this movie so much. I tweeted Dick Miller one time, and he responded, "He's a very nice man and just a legend." And I'm so glad he came back for the sequel.
Yeah.
And then you have, just to top it all off, you have John Glover playing what they have said is like he was kind of designed after President Trump. Well, not president at the time.
Well, no.
Yeah, he
That's a
that he
long
was
reign as president.
like that's how crazy this movie is that, and they make a joke one time like, hey, maybe I'll be president. Oh, President Clamp. His name is Ted Clamp. So
He's like a mix between Ted Turner and Donald Trump.
Yeah,
And you get
but
Ted
also,
Clamp.
but what I think about is Jed Clampett.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he's got this crazy building. He is probably my favorite part of the movie. I don't know why. Like he's just so. He like there are people who play this movie so straight. I'm looking at you, Picardo, and and then there's John Glover who's like, I know I'm in this movie, and I'm good. Like when he runs in at the end, and he's got like the gun and his little elevator. Oh my gosh, this movie.
And you know who we haven't even mentioned yet? We haven't even talked about Christopher Lee.
Oh yes,
who plays the mad scientist?
whose name, Michael, is Dr. Catheter. Dr. Catheter. Like
what did Joe Dante? How did they let Joe Dante make this movie?
I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, it's one of those things like you show it to someone, they're like, "This may be the weirdest movie I've ever seen," but to me, I'm like, it just. I saw it when I was young, so it's
very
to me,
impressionable.
And I love the original Gremlins, but I would much rather watch this over the original Gremlins any day.
It's a great 1-2 punch. It's like watching Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. It's like they both complement each other. The first Gremlins is like low key and sort of just like a little PG-13 horror movie. And then Gremlin 2 is like out and it's just out there. And then Gizmo is just Rambo halfway through the movie.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's got to be a credit to like how great of a filmmaker Joe Dante is, that like he can make whatever he wants. He can find a film critic who bashed the original, bring him in for a cameo where he gets killed, and then be like, and then on top of it, be able to be like, hey, Hulk Hogan, you got a second? I need you to come.
At the height of Hulk Hogan's popularity,
yes.
too.
I mean, this is like this before Suburban Commando, which may be peak Hulk Hogan.
I don't know. Three Ninjas.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Three Ninjas. Yeah, that was pretty huge. We haven't even talked about the musical number at the end.
New York, New York.
That is, oh man, this.
Do you think? Hey,
right.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think the performance by the Gremlins doing New York, New York is going to be better than the Hamilton movie that's coming out on Disney Plus? And the only answer I will accept is yes.
Well, guess what? That's the only the only answer I'll give you is yes, because it is. It's fantastic. It's layered. It's got. I mean, it's a roller coaster. It's emotional. It's scary sometimes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that has the balls to be like, hey, we take place in New York, but we're only going to shoot inside this building. It just took everything that was wrong with sequels and just made fun of it, because they're like, hey, okay, all right, we got gremlins in a building, but we got like new gremlins. It's like aliens, It's like if they took Die Hard sequel and an Alien sequel,
God,
and they just like crammed it into a building, and it's just fantastic.
Beautiful.
Mm.
It's got love. It's got horror. It's got comedy. It's got action.
It's got drama. You've got this whole relationship drama between Zach Galifianakis and Phoebe Cates, and then there's a little drama, there's a little, maybe a love triangle, and like, it's just, and then Ted Clamp shows up and is clearly in love with Zach Galifianakis's character. I could honestly right now, we could just pop it in and you and I could just watch it together.
You got it on DVD?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I used to have the cassette tape. I used to have the yeah. This is how much I love this movie. I didn't even own the first Gremlins movie, but I own I own the sequel on VHS tape. Like I know you can rent it on YouTube.
hmm
I don't know where else you can stream it,
It's
but
probably on Amazon.
yeah, you could probably find it pretty easily. It is
Yeah, you just go to clampindustries.com.
yes, clampindustries.net and
It's on a
yeah.
GeoCity site.
You know, they always talk about they're gonna give it a sequel or they're gonna remake it, whatever they do. I don't think it'll ever top this.
I don't think you need a
Yeah.
sequel.
You
No,
don't. I don't think you do. I don't think you need a reboot.
nah. And if a sequel is made, they'd probably try to do CGI and it would look fake. It needs to be all practical effects. But no one wants to do that anymore unless they're making Fraggle Rock
Yeah.
remakes.
And how do you top Brain Gremlin? You don't.
Can't.
You don't. How do you top Electricity Gremlin?
Oh,
You don't.
I'd forgotten for a second.
There's a gremlin that just has vegetables growing on it. That's what? Don't understand. But it's perfect. That's
Perfect. That's it.
it. Done.
Sorry, folks. It won't happen again.